Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy. I'll be hosting today's show. On the hazardous weather chart here, we've got some advisories out along the eastern Alaska range there through the passes. Winds currently increasing, and will gust 50 to 60 miles per hour throughout the evening and overnight tonight into at least midday tomorrow or into early afternoon. For the wind, again, that's for wind advisories there. This advisory is a winter weather advisory due to snow and blowing snow. Expect moisture is going to push on in the form of snow, and winds will increase to about 35 miles an hour in gusts. So that will reduce visibilities down to half mile or less, or even a quarter mile less at times. Throughout the area here, which is west and north of Dillingham, is the advisory zones currently out for this area. And anywhere from as much as 9 inches of snow could fall here over the next 24 hours as well. Otherwise, going to the satellite imagery, you can see low pressure here moving from south to north, and the front right through here gradually edging eastward, kind of breaking up in this portion here. Moisture flowing northward and across the southeast interior, and also coming westward. You can just see the clouds just gradually increasing there with the moisture just to the east of the Chugach Mountains, and then a break right through here from Kodiak Island, right across Cook Inlet, up into the central interior there. Then more clouds back to the northwest and also to the west as this system pushes eastward. Warmer temperatures, rain, Pribilof Islands today, and quite kind of a contrast. Earlier, Cold Bay down to a quarter mile in snow and blowing snow, with snow changing to rain over at Unalaska, and then the rain changing to showers. Looks like an ending, and possibly even getting some clearing there for the Pribilof Islands. And then that front trails back along the Aleutians, keeping it cloudy and wet there throughout much of the day. Otherwise, we've got disturbance up here over the northwest, producing enough of a gradient to give blowing snow across the Arctic coast in many areas, and even some light snow falling over the eastern Arctic coast with winds 25 to 35 miles an hour, creating a blowing snow condition. And the chart here showing that disturbance, mostly aloft here, producing areas of light snow up over the northwest, scattered snow showers, really amounts on the light side, then more gradient here on the eastern Arctic coast from about Barrow eastward. They're reporting the blowing snow throughout the day today and the gusty winds. And then we had, again, the snow, which is trending toward rain here for the Alaska Peninsula. Rain behind the front and the warmer air there, back to the Pribilofs, down across the eastern Aleutians, all the way back to Adak today, with gusty southeast winds right along the coast, making landfall here about midday, and will gradually move inland and result in a winter weather advisory that's out for these areas west of Dillingham. Otherwise, for the panhandle, you can see that low tracking northward, roughly about this position here at 4 p.m. Sunday afternoon, and the front trailing out ahead of that, pushing rain in over most of the southeast coast. And just Skagway this afternoon, I saw the only reporting station there still carrying snow. So it's mostly rain now all the way up, and then some areas of snow up over the southeast interior, and also along that trough there up around toward Eagle. And for tonight, that system will move northward here and take a batch of snow with it up into the upper Yukon Valley, southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range, and then on over toward Mackenzie Bay with this warm front, another low pressure area coming northward here, and a warm front associated with that, concentrating the rain mainly over the northern panhandle there, drying out on down to the south, or changing to showers, becoming more showery with lighter rainfall amounts there. And then back out to the west, low pressure here moving just west of Kuskokwim Bay, warm front there, rain across the Alaska Peninsula in toward Kodiak Island. This trough producing snow. And again, the snow and blowing snow here west of Dillingham, possibly even mixing with rain late tonight for those areas, but snow and blowing snow here across the southwest interior. And then northward along that trough, lighter snow amounts, definitely lighter winds as well up to the western Arctic coast. Still brisk on the winds, easterlies, still could gust 35 miles an hour there over on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. but beginning to come, or will be coming down there for the central coast, and then light to the west. And the next system pushing another surge of warm air and rain in across the western to central Aleutians. And tomorrow that'll just move eastward a little bit there. Really not all that strong of a system, but plenty of kind of a widespread area of light rain, fog, and drizzle here. That warm front edging in toward Nikolsky. A break here. Could see some sunshine over the Alaska Peninsula early on for possibly Unalaska. And better conditions now into Bristol Bay and actually the Kuskokwim Delta as well. As this low drifts up into Norton Sound. Snow back to the west, snow to the north. Really, the wind shouldn't be too strong to create any type of blizzard condition for St. Lawrence Island. And then a trough extending southeastward keeps the chance of snow showers going, or rain and snow showers along the coast. Snow showers to maybe some areas of light snow, southern Alaska range there, and northward, clearing out, maybe some clearing there for the Copper River Basin. Tanana Valley looking really good, as well as the central north slope. And for the southeast coast, another round of rain pushing up across the Queen Charlottes. Probably won't reach the southern southeast coast till tomorrow evening. And then for Tuesday, now low pressure south of the Queen Charlotte Islands will make for a dry day over much of the southeast coast, with temperatures still reaching into the lower to mid 50s over the southern area. Still a risk of a shower up north. Scattered rain and snow showers for the North Gulf Coast, and scattered snow showers over the southeast interior. Pretty fair here from the eastern Beaufort Sea coast through the Yukon Valley, or through the upper Yukon Valley, central interior, down into the Kuskokwim Valley. And Kodiak Island looking pretty good. Kind of a cloudy day for Cook Inlet with the rain or snow showers from the Chugach Mountains and Talkeetnas eastward. And looking at the lows forecast for tonight, right around 10 below for the central and eastern Arctic coast, to 5 below here up over the northwest. Upper 20s to the Pribilofs, teens here along the southwest coast, single numbers inland there up the Yukon Valley. Into the Tanana, and then looks like upper teens, lower 20s for south central Alaska, lower to mid 30s there for the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, we've got upper 20s for the forecast lows, really not too bad there for Prince William Sound, down across the Homer-Seldovia area. Kodiak State Airport probably falling a little below 30 degrees, and mild here over the southeast coast with lows right around 40 in the southern areas. Mid-30s up there to the north. And then for the highs tomorrow afternoon, with increasing sunshine there, mid-50s in the forecast here for the southern panhandle in some areas, and mid-40s to the north. Lower 40s here along the North Gulf Coast, Yakutat to Cordova, and on down to about Seldovia, even Kodiak reaching 40 degrees. And then into the Copper River Basin, also windier areas rising up to 40. And near freezing here for the Tanana Valley areas, and then 20s, cool into the teens for the Brooks Range, and temperatures mostly above zero along the Arctic coast there. And then for the Seward Peninsula, teens pretty much sums it up, as well as St. Lawrence Island, upper 20s here across the southwest coast to, well, actually the Nunivak Island area and Yukon Delta coast, with mid to upper 30s for Bristol Bay. And highs upper 30s also for the Alaska Peninsula to about Unalaska, lower 40s for Adak and Atka. Then some cooler air moving into the far western Aleutians, where Shimei will have a high about 34. And for the lows on Tuesday morning, either side of zero here over the eastern interior areas, definitely below zero there for the Arctic coast, but only in that 5 to 10 below range portions of the north slope. Upper teens here over the west central interior, warm to the mid to upper 20s, or the mid 20s anyway for the Bristol Bay area. Upper 20s, Kachemak Bay, and the Aleutians staying above freezing in most areas, except for Shemya falling to about 30 degrees. And still mild over the, or above freezing for the Panhandle there, 35 to 40 for all the lows. Mid to upper 20s here for the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound areas, and single numbers there for the Tanana Valley. Those will warm into the upper 20s to near 30 there for the Tanana Valley in the afternoon. Over to Eagle and down to the Copper River Basin, 40s to mid 50s here, warmest over the central and southern southeast coast, looking really good there. Upper 30s out over the Aleutians, and teens for the Seward Peninsula.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Tomorrow morning's weather depiction graphic shows a big area of IFR here, northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, all across the southwest interior, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula and southern Kodiak Island and into the Aleutian Range and southern Alaska Range, back across the southern Kuskokwim Valley and then northward there toward the Selawik Valley area, and areas of marginal VFR and IFR here over the southeast interior, and a couple of swaths of IFR up here in the central Tanana Valley, White Mountains area, farther to the north and just off the Arctic coast. Southeast coast there, IFR in the north for the afternoon. Improves down here to the south. Look for actually becoming mostly sunny down over the southern areas there, and IFR persisting up to the north, IFR off the coast here. Not too bad over the eastern interior, right into the west here, but IFR hanging tough along the Alaska Range and then dissipating up toward Windy Pass, but IFR back to the northwest here across Kotzebue Sound and just about to Kivalina, then IFR there along the north slope and much of the Arctic coast, and more IFR here out over the Aleutians. And for Tuesday morning, that area shifts eastward with the next system spreading into the Pribilof Islands back down across Nikolsky to Unalaska and the south side of the western Alaska Peninsula. Also here over the southwest interior, a big area of IFR holding over the northwest part of the state and actually extending across the northern Koyukuk Valley there to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. IFR lingering along the central eastern Arctic coast and also for the North Gulf Coast. And for the afternoon on Tuesday, looking pretty good here. Good VFR along the panhandle there, up in across Gulf of Alaska, all of southern Alaska here, south central, right up in the Tanana Valley, looking pretty good VFR-wise, and up along the Arctic coast from about Barrow down to maybe Point Lay, some IFR, then marginal VFR for the Seward Peninsula, and IFR now for the southwest coast, Nunivak Island, mostly across the Kuskokwim Delta, eastward to about roughly the Dillingham area, and then the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Eastern Aleutians all the way out to Adak, not bad, and then becoming marginal. And for the passes, IFR becoming marginal VFR for both Anatuvik and Adigan tomorrow, Lake Clark and Merrill. IFR at times, and rainy, marginal VFR becoming IFR. And for windy, other way around, marginal VFR trends toward VFR in the afternoon. Isabel, look for an improving trend as well with the lowest conditions in the morning. And for Mentasta, though, VFR the entire day. Tanita, VFR tomorrow. And Portage starting out marginal, becoming VFR into the later part of the afternoon. And for Chilkoot and White, looks like an IFR kind of day coming up. For the freezing levels, again, southerly flow here pulling warmer air northward, 2,000 feet almost into the northern panhandle, then 4,000 back down to the south and out to the west. We've got a pretty good gradient here, a thermal gradient along the Aleutians with freezing levels ranging from 2 to 6,000 feet at the surface north of the Pribilofs, but south of Nunivak Island, and then down to the southeast and then hugging the coastline. Icing-wise, above about 5,000 feet of the light to isolated, very isolated moderate rime icing here in the west down to Kodiak Island and then up along the western Alaska Range. Then a break, and then the next batch here slipping up into the Aleutians and then spreading eastward to the Fox Islands above about 7,000 feet there. And then could be some areas of considerable moderate rime icing here up along the North Gulf coastal areas. And then for the jet stream here, a big trough that came southward, now shifting eastward. So flow becoming a little more southeasterly here and about 50 to 70 knots through that area, ridging to the west here, poking up in across the Aleutians. And for 9,000 feet, pretty much southeast flow or southwest flow here, 35 to 50 knots along the Aleutians, and then 30 to 35 over the southern Bering Sea, even lighter up to the north there, and then southerly winds here with this system moving in. We've got 35 to 40 knot winds with that, falling back to about 25 there over the north central interior, just 15 along the Arctic coast. Southeasterly is pretty brisk here on the panhandle, 40 to 60 knots there, mostly along and off the coast. Same thing at 3,000 feet, 30 to 45 knot winds here with that system over the southwest. Turbulence-wise, moderate chop, pretty widespread here over the western interior as well as the southeast coast. And I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Another area where the Federal Aviation Administration is using technology in advancing aviation safety is in the use of remote weather cameras as a tool to aid pilots in making safe flight decisions. Hello, I'm Sheila Balistreri.
So in '99, we really started what we currently call the Alaska Weather Camera Program. We say Alaska because it's the only place in the FAA that has this. One, it's available through the internet so that the pilots, their family, their friends, they can all take a look at what the weather's like before you go there. In addition, we have all of that available within all of our flight service stations so that each flight service station technician can call up and look at weather real time. And with that, provide a better briefing, whether it's pre-flight or in-flight for the pilots. By far the most popular thing we've ever done.
The weather camera system has been a good one. I'm sure you can tell from the, if you had access to the number of hits that they get that, on each site, that they're well used, and they save a lot of gasoline, they save a lot of time for passengers out turning around in weather and coming back when a pilot can just look at the camera and make a decision based on that rather than going out and actually looking at the weather.
When we look at the cameras, and if it's a definite no-go situation, then we're not able, we don't send an airplane out to take a look at it and then have to just spend the gas and the time and energy to go out, take a look at it, and just turn around and come back.
By placing weather cameras throughout the state, we've certainly come a long way. Today we have 55 cameras throughout the state, an investment of $7 million. 12 new sites are scheduled to be up and running by this October. This concept, I think, is stunning in its simplicity. The pilot goes online and can view 2 images for each location. The first shows what the site would look like in a perfectly clear day situation. The second shows current weather conditions. Pilots can now learn what the visibility is in the mountain pass they face and whether they want to fly through it before they take off. In many instances, they may decide not to fly, to hold on that flight for a while, depending upon what they see. And that's long before they set foot in the aircraft.
Alaska is a huge state, and the area covered so far by weather cams is comparatively small. In order for the project to be completed, 165 already identified sites need to be added. In what may be considered counterintuitive, many of these weather cameras are not placed at airports, but are positioned in or near mountain passes and other geographical areas, which are often used by pilots as navigational aids. Others are located at rural airports where there are no weather observers or co-located with automated weather systems. Pilots report that the value in these weather cameras is the real-time information they receive about destination and route conditions. Flight service specialists also have access to the weather camera images and routinely brief pilots with the most up-to-date information before takeoff and during their flight.
We use the weather cams in 2 basic ways here at the flight service station. For self-briefing, to get ready to be able to brief the pilots, to look at the weather cam where we have an airport with a weather report. We can compare what we see on the screen with what the weather report says. Where we do not have weather reports available, then we can look at the camera and again get a picture of what the weather is like at those locations.
When I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is pull up the weather cameras to all the destinations in the Southeast and check that against the actual reports at that station, and it gives you a lot better picture of what the weather's doing than what we used to enjoy with just the observation. And I'm sure all the pilots are doing the same thing. I know all of our pilots do. A well-placed camera looking in 3 different directions, there's nothing like that. Be able to see in real time what your weather actually looks like before you take off.
Cost benefit is quite a bit as far as saving us money. We don't launch a flight when we know that the weather is bad, when we can see it on the cameras that the weather is bad at our destination.
When the weather cam system was first proposed, there were some people who doubted its utility, and as they've come online, we've seen how the pilots really like to be able to see those pictures. They value it, and as they become available to us as briefers, we value it too.
I do thank you also for the cameras. I personally have used the cameras. I think that probably the one that's most used is the one over going through the pass into Lake Clark, and from time to time I get calls that it may not be functioning properly, which I'm pleased to say that Mr. Poe responds to very quickly.
During a recent independent study of Alaska pilots who have used the system, 68% reported making decisions to cancel or delay flights based on weather camera information. Pilots also reported that these decisions help them avoid additional fuel costs from flights that must be diverted or repeated due to bad weather. Now, these safety and economic advantages generated more than 2.3 million hits this past year on the FAA's Alaska WeatherCam website.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, continued to grow out here, expanding to the west and to the south again today. But with some southerly winds and a little milder temperatures coming in, expect that to start retreating again, starting as early as tomorrow morning, actually. But it doesn't look like it's going to be any big retreat back to the north like we'd seen earlier on. Coastal water forecast, we've got east-southeasterly gales here for a good portion of the southeast coast, falling back to under gale force criteria there on the north coast with southeast 15, Lynn Canal, northeast gust 35 for Stevens Passage, and southeast at 30 for Clarence Strait. Outlook for Tuesday, southeast 25 here for Clarence Strait, lighter easterlies 15 knots for Stevens Passage. Lynn Canal, especially northern Lynn Canal, north at 20, east 20 on the north coast, southeast 15 to 20 on the south coast, seas running 11 to 13 feet. And for Prince William Sound, light winds and slight seas tomorrow, just an easterly breeze at 10, northeast 20 for the North Gulf Coast there. For the eastern North Gulf Coast, the western area there, southeast at 15, pick up to about 20 there for the Barren Islands, increase to 30 knots here for Kachemak Bay. And then we've got small craft advisories here south of the Forelands for 25-knot winds. And then on Tuesday, no change northern Cook Inlet, still light northeasterlies, north 15, south of the Forelands, northeast 15 or north to northeast 15 for both the Barrens and Kachemak Bay, as well as the western North Gulf Coast, eastern area here, east of 15 and north 15, 2-foot seas, Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, south winds along the east side there, turn southeast at 20 for Shelikof Strait, and southwest small craft advisories there for Bristol Bay. 25-knot winds, 8-foot seas, and 25-knot winds here from Sitkinak to Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, northwest at 20. Those turn westerly at 25 with 13-foot seas on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Those will swing around to the southeast at 25 knots on Tuesday. Southerlies at about 20 here for the areas south of the peninsula, and then up toward Kodiak, southwest 15, north 15 on the east side. There's kind of a light variable 5 to 15 knot wind pattern around Kodiak Island on Tuesday, southeast 20 for Bristol Bay. And out over the western Aleutians, we've got east-northeasterlies about 20 knots with seas 11 to 12 feet. Adak and Atka zones southwest 30 on the Pacific side, south 20 the Bering Sea side, and southerlies about 20 knots for Unalaska Island, but a little brisker there just to the west. And then for the Tuesday outlook, 25-knot southwesterlies here for the Fox Islands, turn westerly, and then northwest for Adak and Atka, dropping back though down to 20 knots with 20-knot west-southwesterlies, or west-northwesterlies, all the way back to Shemya. And for the southwest coast, we've got pretty brisk winds here, northwest at 30 knots south of Nunivak Island, east winds 25 for the Pribilofs, lighter winds to the north here, as you can see, 15 knots there north of Nunivak Island, about 20 around the Bering Strait coastal areas down across St. Lawrence Island, east 20 for St. Matthew Island. And for the southwest coast on Tuesday, 15 to 25 knot winds here, strongest south of Nunivak Island. Seas 4 to 5 feet, north 25 for the Pribilofs with 7-foot seas, west 15 for St. Matthew Island and St. Lawrence Island, easterlies at 15 knots. And the windiest conditions again will be, tomorrow, will be on the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast there with brisk wind advisories holding in the forecast there. 25 knots, could fall under that here in the central coast in the afternoon, but east 20 even on the west side. Otherwise 10 to 15 knots, variable here across the Chukchi Sea. And then on Tuesday, we've got northerlies at about 15 in the forecast there from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort. Light northeast drift there on the western coast, and then 15 knots out of the east, and actually easterlies 15 to 20, all the way over to Demarcation Point. Forecast for tonight, rain becomes less or more showery here over the southern panhandle with mild temperatures, and that warm front keeps it unsettled to the north. Scattered snow showers North Gulf Coast into the southern interior there. Snow up there to the northeast of that low, and a trough in low Percy area keeping snow with the winter weather advisories in over the Yukon or the Kuskokwim Delta to just about Dillingham. Rain, Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and this system moves northward, carrying the snow with it up to the north across the Seward Peninsula to about the Kivalina, Selawik, Kobuk Valley area. Trough with some snow showers, possibly reaching Cook Inlet, and more rain moving into the Aleutians. Outlook for Tuesday, sunny for the southeast coast, and more rain for the southwest part of the Bristol Bay zone.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.